Hello you two, we have got ourselves an SD V3 intake to test against my current ITG. Yes, here it is. This is the SD V3 and the MAF housing. There is a shield which is out there, we'll show that later. And this is the ITG that I have been using. Now the purpose of this video is not about fitting. I may do a time lapse of me actually fitting it, but there's loads of that on the internet. My main purpose in this video is testing it and trying to get some data and see if there's a difference. So the main things we're going to look at is the temperature that comes through both filters, and we're going to have a look at the air speed. We're going to measure that on 4 scans. So we're going to see which one produces the most airflow and which one does the best temperatures, which is the closest to ambient. So I'm also going to do some other things. You can see I've got my tools out, I've got my calipers and that, and we're going to look at sizes of the MAF housing to compare, and then we're going to look at how far away is the MAF sensor from the edge of the pipe. Now reason I'm doing that is because I think the sizes of the MAF housing can affect the airspeed readings you get. So just for the sake of looking at it, we'll see if there is a difference, and if we get different airflow speed readings, we can start to think, well, is it actually flowing better, or is it just a difference in the MAF? Now there might be people who know more than me can chime in and tell us how that will work, but like I say, we'll get the results, we'll look at the numbers, and we'll see which one looks the best on paper. Right, so we're going to start with the ITG MAF housing, and if we can just see here, there is an immediate taper. So we look there, we can see calipers are clear and easy, and then it narrows there. Then the pipe is pretty much consistent in size. There's an ever so slight difference in the top to the sides, and I think that might be just a bit of distortion from the welding, but I think it's the intention is for it to be a fairly consistent size tube, and I will tell you what that size is now. Right, so that is 63.18 mil, give or take. So what we're going to do now is I want to measure how close is the MAF to the actual edge of the housing. Right, so measuring that distance was a little bit trickier for me because these, you can see, they won't fit. So I've used this one. I'll use a little bit of thinking how I'm going to do it. So I'm laying that flat to the bottom run, and then I'm putting the point then to the bottom, and then I've measured that on there, and we have got a distance of 10.52 millimeters. So that's the important bits for the ITG. Now let's have a look on the SD and see how that compares. So the first thing you'll notice with the SD one is it's got a step there. I do not know why they've done that, but they've done that. So we're going to measure from the inside of that, both sides. So we'll do exactly the same, put it in there, I'll put the MAF in, and we'll redo the measurements on that. Right, here we go then. Here's the SD. I've put in the same orientation as what we had the ITG. I don't need to use them, we can use a digital now because we haven't got no immediate taper like we did on the ITG. So if we measure this end, we have got 61.5. hang on, let me try that again, make sure I've got it right. I'll get this right now, I'll show you the final measurement. So we're going to go with that, 61.56. Now the interesting thing is I know what that taper is to the other end, so we're going to get a measurement there. Right, so we've spun it around. Now we're at the step side, so I'm not going to measure the step because that's irrelevant. We're now going to go to the inner part there. Just move around, make sure we're right. And we've got a 63.34. So for some reason it expands and gets bigger. Now I can tell by looking at it that MAF is further away from the end, and you can see actually this is a much taller. So what that does for readers I'm not sure, but we'll take that measurement for reference sake now. Right, so this one is easier to measure, so I've set that now, look, to the size there, put that into my digital, it's in there, and we've got 20.27. Okay, so that's the test done then. So the ITG was a consistent more or less 63.18, with the SD going from 6159 to 6334, and the MAF tube on the ITG is 10.52 millimeters to 20.27 millimeters. Now, you might not really care about that. All of that info might be absolutely meaningless, but what's going to matter is what it's like on the road. So, and to get it fitted, we'll get out and we'll test the airspeed and the air temperature. Right, so it's in, but it's only a temporary fit, right? Now I know ideally I need to cut that back, the air filter to come back. This shield doesn't want to fit down properly with a bigger radiator. And also I've got my catch can there. Now don't worry about it blocking that or anything there, because that's not a direct airflow like you think. That's completely blocked off in here from the upper shroud. So if you take your light off and look in there, you'll see that's just flowing to dead space. It's not even channeled to the front of the car. So with a fit, if I decide to keep this, if these results go, this test goes well, then I'll do a proper job of fitting. But as it is, bonnet shuts, we're going to get out of the car and see what it's like. Right, let's go for a drive then. But before we do, let me show you something new that I bought. Look at this then. Got myself a garage door, so none of that opening the big wooden doors anymore. Do you know, that was an absolute nightmare. So now, all I have to do is click a button, drive out, click a button, come in. It's so much easier. Do you know, there's so many times where I just wouldn't even bother taking the car out because I couldn't be bothered to open them doors. But anyway, enough about that. Let's go and do some test drives. Right, so we're out now. I've pulled in, I've got the car up to temperature, so you can see the water there is at 97, the outside temp is 18, intake air temp is 20. Now we're going to measure all of this on 4scan. We can read air speed on there, we can read air charge temp, but we can't read air intake temp. Now even though that says intake air temp on the Lufi, it's actually reading air charge temp. I made a video a couple of days ago which I've removed because I reversed the opinion which I had before, and now I found out for definite. That is reading air charge temp from the tip sensor, and also it's not just the Lufi, it's any OBD gauge you plug in. So when we put 4scan on here, I'm going to show you how the intake air temperature and the air charge temp are reversed on that. Someone I know actually plugged in the Ford IDS system, went up and done a test run, and they switched on that. So for some reason, they're backwards. It's so confusing, and it's caused me a lot of issues trying to understand some of the data. But now we've got it, we know what we're going to be looking at. We're going to run our test run on 4scan, and I'll show you exactly what I mean when we look at the data. So 4scan is all plugged in. I'm going to start it recording from where I'm parked, so it'll be a little while till we get the road. I'm going to repeat exactly the same test as what I done earlier. I didn't film that, but the ITG test has been done. I'll show you that. So I'm going to repeat exactly the same. I've waited the car to get the same temperature. I've done everything the same. It's the same day, it's about an hour apart. But anyway, I'm going to start this recording now. We're going to do the run, and then we'll see what it looks like. So third gear, I'm now full throttle. Right, so we have some results here on the computer. I've got both runs loaded up here. This is the SD, and this I took a picture on my phone now is the ITG. So when we look at this now, I know the screen may be flickering a bit to you, but inlet air temp or intake air temp, what you're seeing on there, that is actually your air charge temp, and the air charge temp is actually your intake. So basically, if you want to see how good your air filter is working, you look at air charge temp. So that is what is the reading of the SD intake from the MAF sensor with an outside temperature of 18 degrees, so we're 4 degrees over ambient. Now if you don't believe that they're the way they are, I run a little test, and I'm going to put that in now where I just put a heat gun in to the MAF, and you'll see the air charge temps go up. I done that because I was having a discussion with friends. So that's just the video that I made at the time to send to them, but I'll slip it in now. Boys, I just started him up now. Can you see that? So air charge is 25. I just put a gun down there, right? I've got this old heat gun. Put it down there. Now the car doesn't like it, but have a look. there we have it, boys. That MAF is listed as ACT. Okay, so you can see when the MAF gets hot, the air charge go up. So just to remind you then, outside temp is 18 degrees. It's the same for both tests. On the SD, then air charge, so air intake temp went to 22. So the SD is 4 degrees over ambient. Now the ITG, as you can see on there, hopefully you can, 18 degrees outside temp, air charge, which is intake, is 20 degrees. Intercooler temps are 1 degree lower there. Now what I've done is, if I just show you the oscilloscope, so we went through third and summer fourth, but I'm using the maximum, where we hit the maximum MAF value in that RPM range, where we're still on full throttle, so it's just before the limiter. So that MAF value creeps up a tad on the limiter, but we're using that as a reference, at the exact same point when the maximum MAF value is at maximum full throttle in each gear, sorry, in third gear. So you might see a slight discrepancy in the RPM, like this one's 6964, that's 6878, but it's just where it went into limiter basically. So yeah, now we're going to look at, well actually no, I haven't fully discussed that, have I? So the ITG wins by 2 degrees. Now I know that's consistent because every log I've got to look back onto, ITG is always around about 1 to 2 degrees over ambient. So I do believe, I actually think that position of that air filter is just bad where the SD is. I think anyone who wants to put a filter there, it's just bad. The ITG is just in a colder zone. It's been proven time after time. But, and there is a but, the SD does win on airflow. And I guess the biggest thing you want in the engine is the volume of air, because the intercooler can sort out the temps, hopefully, and the SD wins on that. So let's take a look at them readings. Right, so you're looking at MAF, the mass airflow, so that's grams a second, and we've got 232.6 on the SD, and on the ITG we've got 227.3. So the SD wins by about 5 grams per second. Now there are people out there who claim you can do a brake horsepower reference based off this speed, and it's either multiply by 1.2 or you can also convert by dividing by 0.8. You get the same result, it's just 2 maths. So you can do that and you can get a rough idea of what your highest MAF reading is, what brake horsepower. Whether it's accurate or not, I don't really know. Does it take into account ignition timing, how efficient the engine actually is using that air? I got my doubts on that, but some people will go by it. Also as well, with the ITG, we're seeing 227 there. Now, I have had much higher, and there is a reason for that, and that's because at the moment I cannot get hold of Shell V-Power. My local has been out of stock for a week, so I've had to put a 97 RON in. Now, I would never normally do that because it's lower than I want, and 199 at least. But the reason I've run it is because I've got water injection. I can deal with any detonation because of that. But the downside to that is I also lose a bit of airflow because the water injection has the same effect as retarding timing. So I'm actually losing a little bit of power with the water injection. So that affects my overall airflow. So normally what I would see with the ITG with water on would be closer, a little bit more, 227, 228, 229, water off, 230s. I have seen as high as 239, but that was a freak. I don't know how that happened. But the interesting thing is, well, if you look at these two logs, if you were to look at boost, so we've got 1.78 bar of boost while we're running the SD. Ignore that tip because that's before the throttle. So what you want to look at is your map there. That's where the engine is seeing 1.78, and here on the ITG 1.66. So my map is totally torque based control. It doesn't hit the same boost for every scenario all of the time because it's torque based. It's a massive maths calculation. the way that it's mapped basically the same as what the standard one is. I think stage 1 and stage 2 is mostly as well are mapped similar, so that you'll see different boost levels, and that's because of the way the torque based mapping is. If you want to understand how that works, go on the Motorsport Development's page, look at their blogs, brilliant article in there. But anyway, most stage 3s are not torque based control, so if your map is asking for 1.6 bar, you're going to see 1.6 bar continuous, no matter whether you're going uphill, downhill, flat. Basically that's what it's going to do. This is completely different then. It senses the scenario, the load that's on the car, and it gives you the boost that it needs to hit this power level based on the situation that you're in. So it's a much more sophisticated mapping really. But anyway, so got to sum this up really. Which one do I think is best? Well, if you go off the temperature, I pick the ITG all day long, but the SD is flowing more air. There was a reason why I took all our measurements of the MAF, because I want you to tell me whether you think that the size of the MAF housing makes a difference on the ASP. Now I've heard this, apparently I've been told the Revo intakes read really high. You can clarify this if you know, because of the size of the housing is different and the airflow doesn't react the same. We get an inflated reading on the MAF. I don't know. So I know people go by this MAF reading as it's better because of the MAF reading, but is it really better when the MAF housing's a different size? Is the fact that the MAF is not as protruding into the MAF housing on the SD as what it is on the ITG, so there's more airflow going through, it's not as much of a restriction? Is that a game? I don't know. All things to think about. But will I keep this? I might, based on the airflow, you know, I might. I'm going to see how it goes, but if I start sucking in too much hot air, like basically it's doubling the intake temps compared to what the ITG is. If you think ITG is consistently for me 2 degrees over ambient, and the ST is 4 degrees over, so we'll see what it's like on track. If I get ridiculous intake temperatures and then I see the overall readings come down, I'll be binning it. But we'll test it, we'll see how it goes. So anyway, hopefully you've had enough data from this video, and if you have any info, let me know. Maybe I can learn something from you. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye.